Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@usaprepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class today. Jason is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. Telephone listen line is up, 605-477-3249, 605-477... no, that doesn't work. 712-770-9418. 712-770-9418. That's from Global Star. Serious tone today. No calls today. No calls today. Rich Scheben's with us. And why do I sound so serious? Well, class, we were absolutely correct for the last 3 months when we said, get ready now. Get what you need right now. I'm going to say it a different way. Get what you need right now. The supply chain is broken. No one is prepared for this. No one. Not me. No one. No one is prepared for what's happening. Sam's Club website is broken. Walmart's website, Walmart.com, is fracturing. Truckers don't want to go to work. Taxi drivers don't want to go to work. Uber drivers don't want to go to work. Schools are closed. Doctors and nurses are dying. Airlines, subways, and rail lines are almost shut down. Chernobyl is surrounded by a wildfire. Radioactivity is in the air in the former Soviet Union. Fukushima's radiation cooling water is leaking into the Pacific. Crops have failed. Food's in short supply. Get what you need right now. Not later. Not tomorrow. Not soon. Right now. Rich Scheben, welcome.
Well, thank you, Vince. And, folks, I'm going to try to do as much news as I possibly can, and I figured out I've already deleted 70% of what I wanted to discuss because I'm not going to have enough time. I feel between now and November 3rd, if we even have a legitimate election, is going to be our last opportunity for waking up the people, even though I know there's mass exponential wake-ups over the last 9 to 12 months. There's so much corruption from the insiders that we have to continue giving news to the people, because we, the people, are the only ones that's going to make a difference, because everybody at the top levels is bought and paid for, is owned. And I was going to mention this article last when I do news in a flash, but I'm going to mention it just to start off. WHO official, World Health Organization, says we may have to enter homes and remove family members. Now, this is one of the reasons that we talk on this show about the Nazi left. The Nazi left. Okay, because they're the authoritarians. They're the communist socialists. They're into tyranny, dictatorships, totalitarianism, and fascism. How many times have you heard us say that we need citizen journalism? How many times have you heard me say that they want to control the media? They want to control the police state. Great examples that I've mentioned, for example, is letting Antifa go wild in cities like Portland, where they're conducting violence and smashing in windows and stealing things and all this stuff. How about no due process? This is what the left wants. Government schools controlling curriculum and not parents, which are also anti-home school curriculums. This is the left. Private property invasions. This is the left. courts, lawyers, and judges selling out the people for justice. Voter fraud, election fraud. I'm going to talk about that, some of those articles today as well. We need to start acting like citizens who expect the government to work for us and not the other way around. And I want to make it perfectly clear. Nobody on USAPrepares.com is anti-government. We're anti-too big, too corrupt, overspending, incorporated, elite control, manipulative, anti-constitutional. That's what we're trying to fight, not government, okay? But when government gets to the point that they're only trying to manufacture the perception of their own self-importance and self-preservation, that puts us in a very dangerous place where we don't even get truth on anything anymore. There's no transparency. So let's start with the fact that since Vince started off with a serious tone, I want to talk about some of the things that's happening today. Okay, things like, why are 1 million National Guards being called in for duty? Why is the military aristocracy hiding in Colorado bunkers? And by the way, this is all published information in the public domain, folks. Why are all Americans ordered to come home immediately? Why are CEOs quitting left and right? Why is there so-called new strains of this virus in China? And 430,000 people traveled here from China fairly recently. Right now, a lot of what I'm saying, even though I've read this partial speculation, but it's a very obvious total takedown and power grab by the anti-American globalists. And we will have a loss of sovereignty if we don't start sticking together and having synergy. The new America is going to look like this if we don't. The silent majority must speak up. The new America is going to be rewarded for tattletaling, for promoting tyranny, censorship, surveillance, a new technological police state, no protection for the little people. That's especially with guns. Everything will be deemed non-essential. And you can see that all of this starting in the blue states. Jobs going to be based on only what group you're in, and will have nothing to do with hard work, effort, proven results, and qualifications. Depopulation agendas, where you can't have families, where you can no longer have babies, or at least you can kill them up to birth, and possibly beyond birth, as long as, like governors of Virginia says, we make the babies comfortable first, before they're dispatched. Oh, by the way, men can have babies. We're going to have very little nutrition in food. There's going to be questionable value of the Federal Reserve note or any dollar or Treasury note or SDR or cryptocurrency. Or they're going to continue to rig all markets, the banks, especially silver and gold, LIBOR, Forex, Treasuries, VIX. No one will go to jail. No due process. We are going to have little commerce opportunities. The corrupt will be bought and paid for, like our judges and lawyers, which I've given hundreds of examples over the years, not to mention our politicians and our bankers. Because we all know the politicians do not work for the people. They work for the PACs, the lobbyists, the special interests. They don't even associate with the people socially. They basically represent the funders. So in other words, they've sold us out. We will continue to see more divide and conquer strategies. the manufacturing of perception, pity, and guilt to sway public opinion and holding on to the narratives, and continue to insult the elite will continue to poison us against ourselves and insult work ethic, ability, and intelligence based on what group you're in. Continue to disrespect and degrade people, and never empower our people or group by lowering the bars of standards and expectations, but all meant to make us submissive and break our will through race baiting or gender, sex, religion, ideology, even generations. They're attacking. They're making sure the young attacks the old or vice versa. We're destroying America from within, rewarding mediocrity and eliminating opportunity for the bottom 93%. Unless, of course, you're willing to be part of the distractions, the bread and circuses. Maybe you're a teacher and you're saying that math is white supremacy. Math should be subjective instead of objective. And every one of these things I am not making up. I have mentioned over the years and given specific examples. We're going to be in a position where we could have martial law, more loss of freedoms and liberties, possible war with China and whoever their allies may be. Could it be Russia, North Korea, Iran? I don't know. Those 20 million missing cell phones, a lot of speculation on that. Those people might have been sick or died from the coronavirus. Or maybe have they been smuggled into America to be sleeper cells to attack us while we are divided at our highest levels because we've lowered the bars of standards and expectations for everything. Are we going to have chips planted underneath our skin? Is there going to be a war on cash where there's no anonymity because cash is dirty because it may carry viruses? Are they going to continually crowd news wires to stop declassifications? Is the president going to have to use an emergency broadcasting system, communication style? Are we going to continue to be attacked by bioweapons, chemical weapons, and technological weapons, from 5G to apps to track Americans and GPS tracking? Are we going to continue to see beta tests that's going to make us more submissive? I know, and we're going to talk about the coronavirus again today, and I think everybody's tired of hearing a lot of things. But I want to give both sides of the story today to try to give equal representation. I'm not saying it's not, this is fake. This is absolutely totally real. But I want to put things in perspective. And I want to thank you for being here today, folks, and we will be back after the break.
Class 22 New York bus and subway workers have died from the coronavirus. 22 have died. And another 1,092 are infected. And 5,430 are in self-isolation. Now, this is not New York State. This is not just New York City. This is just the mass transit people who get you to and from A and B. These are the Metropolitan Transit Authority employees. People are still crowding in the subways, still crowding in the buses. They have limited New York MTA, Mass Transit, or Metropolitan Transit Authority has reduced the number of buses and subways. They're packed. And their employees are getting killed from the virus. People are riding the buses and subways, infecting other people. This is as serious as it gets. We're not pulling out of this. This is the big one. I've been saying this from for months now, 3 months. Anyone who says that this is not a pandemic is not your friend. Anyone who says that this is going to be over soon is not your friend, because they've wasted your time if you've listened to them. You need to get out and get everything you need right now. Well, actually, I'm not telling you to do that. I'm telling you to consider doing that. And don't blame me. If you decide that you want to buy something on Walmart.com and have it shipped, that's a great idea, except for one thing. They probably don't have it. If you decide to go to Sam's Club and have some things shipped to you and pay $100 to get your free shipping, that's wonderful. Except they probably don't have it. Am I kidding? No, I spent hours yesterday loading items into an electronic shopping cart, which is meaningless. And then I click, I'll go get it. I'll send someone to go pick it up. So just drop it in the back of the truck. And the website locks up. You can try different Sam's Clubs. You can't get it. You cannot get it. Now, maybe you can go into the store, which is close to suicide. I would never do that. I'm telling you, you can't get it. If you think I'm kidding, try it. You can go to Walmart.com. Go get, get a couple packages of spaghetti. Go get some spaghetti sauce, the inexpensive stuff. Try to get some flour, some sugar, some yeast. Try to get all the things that you normally buy. Just try it. See how it works for you. This is it. This is the big one. This is the one where people turn against their friends and their neighbors. My friends have already turned against me. I've lost a significant number of friends, former friends. And I'm delighted. I'm delighted to know who they are. Because had they shown up here, they would have been just a nuisance. They would have been a problem. They would have been like people you can't trust. Now, if you can't trust them today, how are you going to trust them 20 minutes from now when it gets worse? Or an hour from now when it gets worse than that? Or tomorrow when it gets even worse than that? That's where we are today. And when I went to church back in the 1950s with my grandparents and my parents, and I would hear the priest, talk about leprosy. And leprosy, I learned, as a very young person, leprosy is a disease you don't want to get. And they had leper colonies to keep them isolated, the lepers, from everybody else, because it was communicable. Everybody knew that. But you could see it. You could see someone who had leprosy. Their body was being eaten by itself. Well, this one, the body is eaten, but you can't see it. So everybody is suspect. Everybody is suspect. And then think about adding insult to injury, like these weirdos with the blue hair, the me-firsters. How'd you like to have them in your house? Scheben's with us, and he's talking about the new America. It's been, 3 months into the new America, and it's getting worse by the second. Rich, please continue.
Well, thank you, Vincent. Thank you for letting me exercise my First Amendment rights. I want to mention a couple articles here before I go on. Gordon Chang, there needs to be a Nuremberg trial for Chinese leaders. Well, besides that, there needs to be a Nuremberg trial by the citizens of America regarding the deaths of family members to sue the DNC for the impeachment hoax for Russia, Ukraine, Stormy Daniels, the Mueller trial, all this crap that's basically there was no evidence and it was secondhand, third-hand, fourth-hand information, gossip, rumors, and hearsay. That's what should happen. Now, here's an article right here, a flashback article from January 21st. This Dr. Fauci basically said, and if you remember last week, some of the things that I quoted Dr. Shiva who has a lot of guts talking about Dr. Fauci being a fraud, creating bogus science and wasting billions of dollars of taxpayer money, who's connected at the hip with Gates and Zuckerberg. Basically, Fauci said on January 21st that the coronavirus is not a major threat to the U.S. Now, this is not a joke. These are all published articles in the public domain. Remember, President Trump banned China travel on January 31st, 10 days after Dr. Fauci said it's not a major threat to the U.S. President Trump, thank God, banned China travel, even though some of them snuck in, like I mentioned earlier, by 430,000 people traveling here semi-recently. But Trump did ban travel only 10 days after Dr. Fauci said that it will not be a major issue to the U.S. And what do the Democrats do? They called him a xenophobe, a racist. You can't do that. You're pointing out China. Things have changed, haven't they? And I'm just going to mention a couple of articles in a good note, just to give it a little different perspective. In 2020, cancer cases are expected to kill 1.8 million people and affect 1.8 million people and create over 600,000 deaths. So that's more than 1,600 deaths per day. Another article, hospitalizations lower than predicted. New York marks 75% drop in the virus. COVID-19, 170 times less deadly than accidents in the U.S. And last article, global viral death toll still less than 10% of seasonal flu. So I want to put all that in perspective, folks, before I move on. I think we need to get both sides of the story. Next article, ER physician, patients who took HCQ went from very ill to symptom-free in 8 to 12 hours. And I'm going to mention articles like Chicago Hospital won't let nurses wear masks, hospitals firing doctors who talk to the press. This is all very pertinent information because it looks like the left, the mainstream media, the Democrats, want this virus to escalate and metastasize and get as many people sick as possible. This is very, very disturbing. And why are so many Democrats, remember the Michigan Democrat governor? She was talking bad about hydroxychloroquine, HCQ, and now she's begging for it, okay? Nevada governor now does a 180, and he's allowing HCQ treatment. So I think the left has a narrative. They don't want their people to think, and they want as many deaths as possible. And I think there's more and more information coming out hourly. Next article, 3M is screwing the U.S. The distributors are only selling to foreign countries. Next article, Democrats introduce measure to extend coronavirus relief check to illegal aliens. Yes, 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 these are published articles in the public domain. I know it's hard to believe. It's unbelievable. Next article, China gave faulty, contaminated COVID-19 equipment to several countries. Next article, China makes mega bucks on medical exports after infecting the world. Are you connecting the dots, people? Next article, new strain lasts for 49 days in infected patients. And here's the heading of the last 6 articles, which should be UN stupidity. China added to Human Rights Council. You can't make this stuff up, folks. Can you connect the dots and see who's the enemy here? Next article. Doctor claims 5G radiation poisoning could be causing coronavirus article. Even Woody Harrelson came forth and said 5G may be tied to the coronavirus pandemic. Folks, this disrupts our DNA. All these electromagnetic radiations from cell phones to even Wi-Fi in your house is killing us. We need to smarten up. We need to move out of urban, suburban areas. We need to relearn those 19th century skills. I'm talking to realtors here in Montana, and they're starting to get a lot of phone calls of people wanting to get out of Dodge. Okay. What I want to talk about now is basically measures of our country's wealth and power and future prosperity. I'm going to mention several things here under 10 criteria. First of all, I'm going to go through it as quickly as possible because I've talked about all these in different contexts. But first of all is technology. The cancer, the 5G, the GMO foods, all this stuff. Most of the technology is done for censorship and surveillance of the people. They even want to, the mainstream media is literally talking out loud because they're so desperate, because people are waking up. They want to censor President Trump. I've read this. I've seen this. This is Twilight Zone stuff. Next criteria, education. And think about when I talk about these things, and I can do shows on 2-hour shows on each one of these. I just don't have the time. Education is social and political indoctrination, the public government schools. 90% of the degrees are worthless. I've mentioned quotes on this show and others from Marx, Alinsky, Cloward and Piven, the Frankfurt School. I've read excerpts from this. I've showed you how this is the template, the playbook of the globalists, the Democrats, the left, the people who have sold out to the wealthiest people in America to manage and control the little people and take our freedoms and opportunities away. Next criteria, and again, we're measuring our country's wealth, power, and future prosperity, and even legitimacy. Competitiveness. How many examples have I shared with you in the thousands over the last 9 years of how the powers that be are lowering the bars of standards and expectations based on what group you're in, eliminating opportunity and creating socialist and big government corporation marriages, connecting big corporations and big government at the hip while they're bringing in robotics, automation, and artificial intelligence and their technocracy in order to control things. Economic output and productivity. All this money going into debt is not productive. How many times have I talked about Economic 101 updates? Hours long, folks. Remember I talk about how interest rates are a function of growth, wages, and inflation? Well, where are interest rates right now? All-time lows around zero? Are we having growth? No. Are wages going up? No. Is inflation an issue? It is in certain areas, but we're still in a deflationary, stagflationary environment. And as long as they're going to continue to print money and bail out all the big boys, they're bailing out big oil, they're bailing out Wall Street, they're bailing out banks. It's unbelievable. Banks are getting money, free treasury money with no origination risk or cost, and taking that money and lending it out to you, to businesses for profit. And the Federal Reserve is doing the same thing. Remember I used the term Japanification? That's where we are heading. So basically it's like me getting a product for free from somebody via the taxpayers, whether it be inflation. Doesn't matter what the consequences are to the little people. And I'm selling that product with no risk, and whatever profit I get for it, I get to stick in my pocket. That's what's happening right now. Now, I've talked about stock buybacks and crony capitalism and debt for years. And I'm going to give a little, just a few seconds of reminder. The stock buybacks is basic, and so same as the dividends to the top 10%. It's made to give executive cash through creative accounting via stock options and to boost earnings per share because they decrease the outstanding amount of stock. This is all, and all this new debt also creates more acquisitions and mergers. Never mind companies going overseas for cheap labor and less liability. So acquisitions and mergers, that's code talk for consolidation, which is code talk for less jobs. Same thing that robotics, automation, and artificial intelligence is doing. None of this in the stock buyback arena is made for expansion, new products, or new services, or research and development, or new employees for the people. It's to boost earnings per share, to stick more money in executive pockets via stock option. The whole system is rigged. It's phony. There's no supply and demand. There's no free markets. That's why they use the term crony capitalism. So you can be satisfied, well, maybe there's some capitalism there, so I'll just tolerate it. It's to make you submissive, which eventually breaks your will. Why do you think drug use is so high? All the units of measure of despair is so high. You know, there's an article I have here in front of me about why is New Orleans virus death rate 7 times New York. You know what the answer is? Obesity. Obesity. It's unit of measures of despair. Just with alcoholism, drug use, suicide. None of this stuff is going down in the charts. And when we get back, folks, I'm going to get back to more measuring the country's wealth, power, and future prosperity. I want to thank you for being here. This is an important broadcast. Let's wake up more people, please. Thank you.
So Walmart is restricting how they do business and how you can enter their stores. Here's a quote from Walmart starting Saturday. Now, Saturday was 3 days ago. So this is on Zero Hedge. Starting Saturday, we will limit the number of customers who can be in a store at once. Stores will now allow no more than 5 customers for each 1,000 square feet at a given time, roughly 20% of the store's capacity. To manage this restriction, the associates at a store will mark a queue at a single entry door, in most cases the grocery entrance, and direct arriving customers there where they will be admitted one by one and counted. Associates and signage will remind customers of the importance of social distancing while they're waiting to enter a store, especially before it opens in the morning. Once a store reaches its capacity, customers will be admitted inside on a one-in, one-out basis. That means once they've reached the number that they're going to let in the store, one customer has to leave for the next customer to go in. Once shoppers do get inside, they'll find their choices have been significantly narrowed. In fact, some Walmart stores' entire aisles have been completely sealed off. Walmart stores in New England are sealing off entire aisles with products deemed unnecessary in attempts to combat the scourge of shoppers wandering around to relieve corona quarantine fatigue. According to CBS Boston, Walmart, in addition to Home Depot and BJ's wholesale stores in the town of Chicopee, Massachusetts, worked with the city health departments to reduce unnecessary roaming around aisles and putting others at risk. Unfortunately, in some stores, garden seeds, let me say it a different way, garden seeds have been actually deemed non-essential. And so many who were there hoping to grow their own food at this time will be out of luck. So that's what Zero Hedge had to say about what's happening in the new America. And here's a comment. Rich, you talked about 5G and how it may be tied to the corona pandemic and the destruction of our cellular structure in our bodies. We've been talking about that for years now here at USA Prepares. And in the United Kingdom, 5G towers are on fire. The people are now voting with their matchbox in the United Kingdom with respect to 5G towers. I suspect if that doesn't work, they may vote with the cartridge box. Rich?
Well, yeah, it's pretty scary. This is why commerce is being affected, because we have a lower need for credit, which means lower interest rates. That's why bonds are not overvalued, and we have this continuation of the bond bull market. You know, we can't do commerce anymore. The powers that be are eliminating our ability even to be self-sufficient. That means they are eliminating the people's ability to learn, to think outside the box. That's a pretty scary thing. This is tyranny. This is totalitarianism. This is depopulation. This is Hitler, Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot theory. That's how scary we are. Now, Vince, I know we're running into a break here in a couple seconds, but if it's okay with you, I'd like to continue because I can already see I'm not going to get, even though I cut out 70% of my data, I'm not going to get to half of that. So I'm going to continue with the measures, the unit of measures of a country's wealth and power and future prosperity. Next on my list was military strength, okay? Look how we've lowered the bars of standards and expectations regarding promotions, getting into the service, physical requirements depending on what group you're in, past drug use. I mean, the biggest debate in the military I've seen in the last 2 years has been about transgenderism. There's absolutely no way we can be the best of the best under these circumstances because the powers that be have sold out America. And they've basically gone to the table and bet on China. Next criteria, and that's the reserve currency. How long are we going to have it? No one knows except for the elite at the very top. And after the hard break at the top of the hour, folks, I'll be right back, and I'll go to the next criteria. Thank you.
Yeah, it's Rich Scheben, and we've been talking about what we're seeing in the new America. And, class, regardless of the conspiracy theories, make sure you get what you need right now. Right now. I have not changed my tune one iota for months. Get what you need right now. We're going down. We are going down. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Got 22s? We're going backwards. Brought to you by the global elite. No kidding. Rich Eben?
Well, thank you, Vince, and thank you for giving me so much airtime today, especially. I really appreciate it. What we're trying to do is to wake up the people. What we're trying to do, and we know this audience is definitely well read and researched, but we also want to give you ammunition to share with other people, to wake more people up, because this is a time in history that we all have to ask ourselves, what are we willing to do? We need to disclose how we're being distracted, dumbed down, and divided by groups. We need to disclose how the powers that be are lowering the bars of standards and expectations for even a job, making the appreciation, the value, the dignity, and the legitimacy of work almost non-existent. We need to disclose the corruption, the manipulation, the fraud, the racketeering, the crimes, the treason, sedition, and espionage, where we have no transparency anymore, none. And the little people see no light at the end of the tunnel. So when we talk about measuring a country's wealth and power and future prosperity, basically the last criteria, and obviously I'm shortcutting a lot of information because I have so much, as I always do. Government confidence. I set the stage for that, talking about the corruption and manipulation. How can you have confidence when there's so much hypocrisy and double standards based on what group you're in? And I've said this a million times, folks. It's left, right paradigm. That's an illusion. It's a lot more aristocracy controlling and managing the serfs. They want to keep the status quo. They want to keep you as slaves. There is an addiction to power, money, and control, an addiction that's worse than alcoholism, that's worse than drug use, that's worse than anything, is power, money, and control. Now, with President Trump, has government confidence gone up? Absolutely. But he's also disclosed the deep state, the corruption behind the scenes, behind the smoke, behind the mirrors. And we're so corrupt to the core in this country and around the world. I mean, how many articles did we mention on this show where the government is protecting corrupt big corporations and the collateral damage is small business and the little people? And while they're doing this, they're setting precedents for themselves. Just like the Brett Kavanaugh example. That's to set a precedent to get rid of due process. How many articles have we talked about the FBI, the CIA, the DOJ doing all these crimes with no accountability? The central bank, the lawyers and judges being bought and paid for, where the little people have no rights and no restitution under the rule of law, where rules, laws, and accountability are based on victim group and protectionist group status under the guise of words like equality, fairness, tolerance, and diversity, which don't even have meaning anymore. It's like controversial extremist, racist, bigot, sexist, misogynist, homophobe, conspiracy theorist, intolerant, violent hater with an anti in front of every word and an ism, ist, and phobia on the back of every word. These words don't even have meanings. They're tools. They're weapons to divide us, to make us submissive, and to break our will. And you can see this in all the unitive measures that we've discussed over the years and today. Government confidence and government in general and the big corporate America is now non-functional. Non-functional. It's unsustainable. Even the gig economies are falling apart. They are putting our taxpayer monies into manufacturing the perception of their own self-importance and their own self-preservation. President Trump, if you do not declassify all the things that we've been talking about, from Epstein, I mean, my gosh, they couldn't even protect Epstein. The government couldn't protect the most important criminal in the world. The video cameras malfunctioned. The guards malfunctioned. Everything malfunctioned. You couldn't even do that. And you expect government, the people, to have confidence in the government? How about Uranium One, the Clinton Foundation? What about all this FISA warrants? All these daily coronavirus briefings you're having, Mr. President. We should be having them about this, and geoengineering and weather modification tools. All documents relating to the billions of dollars of cash sent to Iran. 911, alternative energies. Mr. President, we the people, you promised us when you got elected that we the people would be in control. We are turning into a caste system where there's no opportunity for we the people. If you're not born into it, you're not going to get the great board of director job like Hunter Biden or Pelosi's son or John Kerry's son or Mitt Romney's son. Everybody's bought and paid for. So now, because of this virus and all these new protocols, we can't have rallies or peaceful assemblies. Even the mainstream media is bought and paid for. Rallies, debates, voting, everything is heading towards a virtual reality scenario. But don't worry, we're going to have medical passports and chips implanted under the skin, but we won't have any freedoms, liberties, privacy, and we'll continue to be dumbed down and divided and be entertained with bread and circuses. I'm going to mention some articles here now. Seattle Police Chief, call 911 if you hear a racist name. Not making this up, folks. The silent majority has to speak up because we're beyond 1984. This is surreal. A Twilight Zone writer could not come up with this stuff. Next article, Italian governor. I was called racist for wanting to test China travelers in February. Can you see what political correctness has done to the world, to our country? We have to say no to political correctness. We have to stand up for it. And we have to start with 3 simple criteria of standing for principle that I've talked about for years. 1, the same rules, laws, and accountability for everybody. 2 is truth. And 3, because we don't have representation or restitution or rights under the law anymore, if someone has less consequences for their behavior because of what group they come from, then you get to do it too. European banks suspend dividends. Banker bonuses are next. At least we know what the priorities are. Bankers get penalized last. But first we'll penalize the top 10% of wealth via dividends, and then the bankers can get their hands slapped. Even though I mean, you can't even make this stuff up, folks. It really is, that's why I talked about the Federal Reserve giving money and Japanification and no origination risks for banks. They're getting free Treasury money to lend it out to businesses for profit. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine getting a product and literally selling it, and you don't have to manufacture it, you don't have to earn it, it just gets found, and you sell it and you make money. Isn't that wonderful? Why don't you start a bank or a hedge fund, folks, or anything, any financial institution? Don't worry, you'll get bailed out by the taxpayer. And we'll pay for it through at least inflation. Never mind fractional reserve lending. Never mind stock buybacks. Unbelievable. It's all corrupt. It's all rigged. Next article. Tucker Carlson, the World Health Organization helped China cover up COVID-19. You think? China, the World Health Organization, the UN, they're all in bed together. They're all connected at the hips. In other words, they're bought and paid for. They're owned. Next article. Small businesses lost most jobs since financial crisis. Imagine my shock. I think I've been talking about that for months. Small businesses don't get priority. We got to save the too big to fails and the too big to jails. That's fascism, folks. Little businesses are not allowed to have prosperity or make a living. You need to be controlled. Next article. Airlines want $50 billion bailout, and they spent $45 billion buying back their stock. I'm not going to go over the stock buyback scenario again, but nothing benefits the people in stock buybacks. It benefits the executives. Next article. How is the left is trying to blame capitalism for COVID-19 deaths? We don't have capitalism. We don't have crony capitalism. We have a fascist system. We have a system that bails out the aristocracy from malinvestment. That is it. And I've gone into huge detail over the years with this, but I don't have the time right now. Next article. Democrat governor vetoes mandatory voter ID for 2020 election. Next article. Biden prepared for remote voting for November election. Can you see where this is going, folks? Connect the dots. They are weaponizing everything. Never let a crisis go to waste. They are using the people, and the deaths, the collateral damage from the little people mean nothing. Even though the death toll is still less than 10% of the seasonal flu. Next article. Jill Biden misstates number of grandchildren she and Joe have, ignores Hunter's new love child. Well, maybe that's because she's a Democrat. Remember all of Bill Clinton's rape victims? Joy Behar said they were tramps. But yet when Sarah Sanders or Candace Owens speaks, they just basically rip them a new one. Again, feminism, Democrats, double standards, and hypocrisy all the way to the bank. Even though Chelsea Clinton gets a job right out of college for almost $1 million a year and her mother flies around the world talking about white privilege and carving footprints from the little people. Even though Bill Clinton paid Paula Jones $850,000 to shut up. Or how about the congressman saying Kellyanne Conway looks familiar on her knees? Oh, my bad, that's right. He was a Democrat. That's allowed. We'll be right back, folks. Thanks for being here.
Class, this is not talk radio. You are not listeners. This is Do Radio, and you are students and instructors who teach others. You accomplish your objectives. And if we ever get a chance to go outside again, I would love to have our class go head-to-head with any other broadcast's listeners. You would clean their clocks. While they can quote ball team scores and players' numbers, you can wire, you can plumb, you can frame, you can fix your cars, you can build, you can grow your own garden. And while you've been learning and trying new things, they've been watching a ball go across their blue screens. In Greene County, Missouri, in which is located Springfield, Missouri, a few weeks ago I mentioned that there was a case of a person infected with the coronavirus. A couple of days later, 2 cases. Now 66. There are people who are really not paying attention. I've talked to some dog breeders over the last week or so, to learn how the business works and how dogs interact with each other. And what I learned is we chip our dogs. Isn't that great? Most dog breeders chip their dogs. So if you think about that and you apply what Rich Scheben has been saying for the last hour and 26 minutes, you can come to the conclusion that if a person has a new child, a newborn, that person, the proud dad or mom, can say, I'd like you to meet our son. His name is Thomas. Oh, you already knew that. You already knew that because we had him chipped. I didn't have to tell you his name because you knew that because you have a chip reader. Think about that, class. That's where we are headed. And why? Because of the GDP. They think it's cool. They think blue hair is cool. They think homosexuality is okay. They think lowering all the standards, all the things that we used to consider proper, they've lowered them so anything goes now. And you're supposed to accept homosexuality. You're supposed to accept people who don't know what they're doing in positions that are between you and the cash register. And when we talk about car crashes versus the corona panic, car crashes are individual events. The corona panic is a gift that keeps on giving. It has broken the supply chain, and it's breaking more every day. Rich Scheben?
Well, thank you, Vince. Next article. Running out of time, folks. I'm going to be as quick as possible, shortcut as much as I can, and to try to keep things in context. Next article. Immigration jumps to number 1 federal crime. I'm looking at a pie chart right here. fraud, theft, embezzlement, robbery, money laundering, sex abuse, child pornography, firearms, and other. Believe it or not, is a smaller piece of the pie. Drugs is number 2 at over 26%, and immigration's over 38%. So when I talk about inflation charts, like I have many times in the past, and I talk about the subsidies and cost shifting coming from you, the little people, especially in the realms of health care, education, and car insurance, is because the people who come here do not legally need to have those. So you have to pay for it through cost shifting. Next article, Susan Rice says Trump has a particular problem with strong black women. Not making this stuff up. So I'm going to go shortcut this a little bit. I'm going to go to some of the comments from the people. Diamond and Silk proves exactly the opposite. They also prove that Trump has a problem with lying. Susan Rice and others like her, liars who harm our country. Next comment, Diamond and Silk, Candace Owens, Alveda King. President Trump doesn't have to have a problem with strong black women, but he has a genuine problem with un-American traitors. Next comment, so true, and Trump has a way of triggering anti-American traitors. In fact, if a person is triggered by Trump, chances are that in an un-American traitor, it's really a great indicator to help spot the enemy within. Next comment, Trump has a problem with wrong people, including wrong black women, chronic liars like Susan Rice, and incompetent reporters like Al Sindor, whoever that is.
All right, hold that thought. Rich Scheben's with us, and class, we're not taking calls today. On Friday, I will be sharing some tips from my unfinished, unpublished, not-for-sale book on how we do things here at the farm. And if you have some tips that you would like to share with our class, please call in on Friday. And that number to call in on Friday will be given at the beginning of the broadcast, and I'll give it to you now, 866-582-9933. So that'll be Friday, and David will be joining me, and we'll be talking about tips. Rich Scheben, please continue.
Well, thank you. And I was going to read more of those comments from that article from Susan Rice. I've mentioned so many minorities over the years who are extremely intelligent, who have guts, who are well-read, well-researched. I mean, Dr. Shiva sounds like a genius. Dinesh D'Souza sounds like a genius. Candace Owens, what they have in common is they're gracious, they have guts, and they're intelligent. Candace Owens, you were mentioning you might run for Congress. I hope you do. And I think what you should do, when you were there, we obviously saw how you ate Congress's lunch when they tried to entrap you by taking what you said out of context. I think if you do run and win, the first 2 weeks you should apply to be, just for 2 weeks in Congress, apply to be the cook, the chef at the cafeteria where Congress eats. And I think you should serve them crow. Okay, that being said, next article, speaking of thinking outside the box for food, let them eat crickets. The EU is about to approve bugs for human consumption. This is virtue signaling to show a need to lower population. Next article, mandatory lockdown. Baltimore officials approve a spy plane to collect images of city. Remember, anything to do with smart means spy. But this is, like we talk about censorship and surveillance, it's going to get worse unless the people speak up and the silent majority no longer stay silent. Next article. 5 days before it filed for bankruptcy, Whiting execs, or Whiting execs, I don't know how it's pronounced, got $15 million in bonuses. This is a petroleum company. Right now, energy companies have their hands out and are getting bailed out by you, the taxpayers. And yet their executives are getting big million-dollar bonuses. That's right. Next article. Instead of firing everyone, Boeing offers voluntary buyouts to its entire workforce of 161,000. Is this before or after the airline industry gets bailouts? by the taxpayers. Next article. IG Horowitz releases new report. FBI committed fraud on every FISA warrant. President Trump, why aren't we having daily briefings on this stuff? Next article. Fauci says lockdown will continue until there are no new cases of COVID-19. Is this man crazy? Really? He's so tied in with Bill Gates and the UN, the World Health Organization. They want to take down our country. Next article. Lawyers sue to keep millions of foreign workers in the U.S. Okay, America, get the names of these lawyers and judges. If somebody gets caught in violent crime from these people or gets coronavirus, you get to go to the lawyer's house and take what is justified for you because you're not protected under the rule of law. And it all depends, remember, as was told to me, on how many group self-pity points you have. Next article. Goldman Sachs buys 2 luxury private jets as Main Street is on the verge of collapse. Again, I know some of you think I'm making these articles up. I promise you I am not. These are published articles in the public domain. Next article. AOC demands COVID-19 reparations for black and brown people. Again, more divide and conquer strategies to keep us infighting, to keep chaos, because that's how the criminals win, is to make sure we do not have synergy. Next article. Florida sheriff who arrested pastor now releasing 163 actual criminals, and I'm hearing that pedophiles are also being released. Chaos and infighting. Now I'm going to mention one good article that actually has some common sense and logic to it. Idaho is the first state to protect women's sports from transgender athletes. Unbelievable. Vince, I said a lot of information today. I know I shortcutted it a lot. I want you to comment on some of these things that seem surreal. Twilight Zone, 1984. Some of this stuff, it's hard to believe we are living in America. And I would like you to put in your 2 cents. I appreciate you giving me the majority of the airtime. I'm going to leave you with about 15 minutes left of airtime to comment on whatever you feel is necessary. Please go ahead, Vince, and thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Class, you don't want to hear me today. You really don't. Dr. Fauci, when he said that the lockdown will continue until there are no new cases, I read that. That, if you take that literally, that means the lockdown will continue forever. As long as man is around, there will be a lockdown. You know, all kinds of animals are carrying the coronavirus. Tigers can get it and have it. The concern I have is with cattle. Here in Missouri, a lot of people have cows, so there are a lot of farmers here, small farmers like us. And once the cattle get it, I know that the other team is going to come out here with guns and point them at us first and tell us to kill our cows. And they'll tell us that if we don't, they'll kill them and send us a bill for it. Farmers are going down. And farmers and truckers, believe it or not, class, are your friends. We farmers grow the food and the truckers bring it to you. And then you look at organizations like Goldman Sachs. They buy 2 brand new private jets while Main Street is in collapse. There's only like 3 words I can think of that apply to that. One of them is eat, the next one is the, and the third one is rich. Eat the rich. In Beaver County, Pennsylvania, CBS Pittsburgh has an article. And I don't like reading articles, but I need to share this with you. Because I've said, and I'm on the record as saying that nursing homes are concentration camps. for the soon-to-be dead. Please think about those loved ones that you have placed in the nursing homes. While you're at home, you have a lot more time to help your family. But it's really dangerous. Why? Let me explain. That the nursing home staff are generally very poorly paid, about minimum wage. They don't have a lot of training. They experience life and death every day at nursing homes. The work they do is work that most people would not want to do. Some find it very rewarding, but they're dealing with death all the time. In Beaver County, Pennsylvania, a Beaver County nursing home is operating under the assumption that all of their staff members and all of their patients are already positive cases of coronavirus. According to a press release from Brighton Rehabilitation and Wellness Center, they say all staff and all patients will be treated as if they already have the virus. They're proceeding with these presumptive positive measures to protect everyone. Over the weekend, a union representative from the nursing home reported at least 42 of the 450 patients living there tested positive, and 3 had died. The employees' union says that 10 of the more than 300 workers have tested positive. Last night, nursing home spoke with the Department of Health, and they decided to no longer count test results there. They will instead isolate and aggressively treat anyone showing symptoms. Think about that. What they're saying is exactly what I said, that a nursing home is a concentration camp today. A voluntary concentration camp, except for the people in the homes. Because they're there because the family said, yeah, we're too busy. We're too busy to take care of you. We got stuff to do. We got work. Our job is really important. And so, you're going to love it. You're going to be with a bunch of old people that can't remember their names, that wet their pants, that poop in their pants. It's going to smell awful, but you're going to have a great time because they have TV. We are absolutely, positively going down. During the break, I put a couple items in a Sam's Club shopping cart, and it says, so I said, we'll go there today, which is something I would not want to do, just to see what would happen. So what is it? Well, I put some real common things in there that people would buy. I put some extra virgin olive oil in there. I put in some butter. I put in a brick of cheese, and I said, check out for pickup today. Comes back and it says, you can't pick it up today. What it really means is we don't know if you ever can pick it up. What I'm trying to tell you is I'm doing things. We're under quarantine here. I'm not going out. I am not going out. But I'm trying to figure out through some independent research what it'd be like for you. Sam's Club doesn't have it because they have 2 ways of buying things. You can have it shipped to you, or you can go to pick it up yourself, and you can arrange for it to be ready for you. And they call it click and ship, or click and pick up. Well, they don't have it. If you want to have an exercise in frustration, go try to buy some flour and some yeast, and some common items that you might want to have around the house during the corona panic. It is getting harder and harder and harder to get things. And stores are limiting how many people can go in, and stores are limiting what you can buy. So if you want to, you just might be totally out of luck, because they may have a limit of 1 per customer. 1. If they have 1. It's getting worse very quickly, And as I said in the beginning of this broadcast, got to get on a stick and get it right now. Rich Scheben's with us, and class in Florida. There's a line of cars that's miles long. So the average car might be about 20 feet long. And let's say you put 10 feet between cars, so 30 feet on average per car. Miles long. In line for food at a Florida not-for-profit food bank. The food banks have reported a 600% spike in demand for produce among the corona panic. Recent numbers are 500,000 Floridians have filed for unemployment benefits. 500,000. In New York, there's an island called Hart Island, H-A-R-T. And it's not used for much. Well, there are some prisoners there who are digging graves in hazmat suits. And New York City is eyeing this as a mass burial site, a temporary, I say temporary, really? A temporary burial site for coronavirus infectees. After 437 died in a single day. The city death total is about 3,500. Actually, it's 3,485. This is the kind of thing that happened in the past when there were epidemics such as the 1918 Spanish influenza epidemic. And mass burial sites like this were created. They were dug. This is where we are today, class. So for those who say that this is a fraud, the virus isn't real, this is a fake, this isn't real, do you really think that they would be digging mass graves? Do you think every leader of almost every country would be in panic mode? Do you think that it would be wall-to-wall news? Now, I really do understand the conspiracy theories, and I think many, if not all of them, can be true. I really do. I'm not ignorant to the fact of these conspiracy theories. But what I'm telling you is you can spend your time watching a bunch of guys jump on a ball on the blue screen, or guys with big sticks hitting a ball across the blue screen, and other guys running to catch it and then throwing it to other people, having fun on a field of grass. You can watch that. Or you can spend your time discussing conspiracy theories about the corona panic, or you can do something to survive it. And I suggest you do something to survive it. And I suggest you meet with your family right now. Call a meeting, say, oh, y'all, look, we're going to talk about this. No cell phones, no distractions. TV's off, the radio's off. It's just us and the family, and we're going to talk about it. And we're going to write down the list. One person gets a piece of paper and a pencil and is the secretary. And you all talk about what you're going to need to get and how important it is. And prioritize that list. And as the Secretary of the Treasury, U.S. Treasury, says, your money's coming soon. Soon. Huh. So if I were a betting man, I'm not. But I would kind of buy some things I needed to survive and put them on the credit card. And I would say, well, y'all, I can't pay you because Steve Munchin said he was going to send me $1,200 and he didn't do it. So I'm not going to be able to pay you. I would consider a response like that. But I would get that food. I wouldn't waste a dime. I wouldn't buy anything frivolous. I wouldn't buy a new computer or a new phone or anything like that, or a new baseball glove or bat. I would only buy essentials for life.
Vince, let me chime in here, if you don't mind, please, for a couple seconds we have left. I just want to mention, I hope didn't have time to be repetitive today, folks, but these big executives who are getting bonuses, who are buying new jets, for getting bailout money by the taxpayers, and then filing bankruptcy, and then pocketing the money, and then basically defaulting on debts under protection of the government and the rule of law. Think about this, folks. If you are entitled to have victim group or protectionist group status, you are actually demanding not just to lower the bars of standards and expectations for a job, but you're demanding no rights and restitution under the rule of law for the little people. Do you really expect that the so-called philanthropy and benevolence of the millionaires and billionaires are going to bail you out? Good luck. It ain't going to happen.
Rich,
Vince, thank you for time today.
Rich, do you agree or disagree with me that the time is now, right now, to get what you need to survive this?
Yeah, the time was last year, but if you have to do it now, absolutely.
Okay. And class, just keep Lucille in mind. I know you're going to find her and bring her to the party. That's coming. That's coming. But you've got to survive it first. And these guys that are buying jets to get out of Dodge, to get away from the mess they've created, Lucille's coming. I know it's coming.